Hello, welcome. My name is Dr. Christopher Gennari, and this is Great Big History Podcast, Progress, Backlash, Health, and Trauma. This episode, the Persians. Be nice until it's time not to be nice. Extra credit for anybody who gets the 1980s reference. So the Persians run the world from 550 BCE to 323 BCE, and we have to ask, how? How did the Persians go from being the little brother of the Medes to running the largest Mesopotamian empire and one of the largest empires in the entire history of the world? It stretches from Afghanistan and India all the way to Europe. So how? How did the Persians win? And that is Cyrus. Cyrus is the man. Just repeat after me. Cyrus is the man. He has body wash named after him. Do you have a body wash named after you? No. Why? Because you're not the man. If you were the man, you'd have a body wash. So Cyrus is 75 years plus after the destruction of the Assyrians. But he clearly learned from the Assyrian failure. And his legitimacy is through niceness after victory, the opposite of the Assyrians. He defeats his Median king granddad, who tried to kill him. The Median king granddad married his daughter off to a Persian noble guy to get her out of the kind of way. He had a dream. He had a prophecy where he dreamed that the child of his daughter would one day take over his empire. And so he goes out of his way to try to stop this from happening. He marries his daughter off to a nobody down there in Persia, right? He then tries to have the kid killed, and that doesn't work. He then wages war on Cyrus as a young man. And Cyrus wins. But he lets his granddad, who, remember, has tried to kill him 3 times, he lets granddad retire. He married a Median princess. And the idea is that they'll become one people. That the Persians and the Medians are, as Herodotus will say, one man's Mede is another man's Persian. It's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. They're the same thing. They're so intertwined that Herodotus uses them kind of the same. Medians and Persians. When he defeats the Lydians and the Babylonian kings, he lets them become governors. He lets the Hebrews, who were enslaved by Babylon. I know we haven't talked about that yet, but the Hebrews are enslaved by Babylon. In 585, he allows them to return in the 530s, return to Judea. This is how the Hebrews transition. It's one of the many ways the Hebrews transition from Hebrews into Jews. The people who belong in Judea, Judeans. Isaiah 45 called Cyrus a Messiah, the only non-Jew to be called one. That means he was sent by the Jewish God to save the Jewish people. That is excellent public relations. Because Cyrus doesn't worship the Jewish God. Cyrus is a Jewish. He's a conqueror. And yet a prophet of the Jews is calling this non-Jew, this Gentile, a Messiah for the Jews. Think about that. Think about how crazy that is. That's how good Cyrus was. Well, Cyrus doesn't live forever. He's actually killed in battle. A battle he wins. Even in death, he's a winner. And that leaves his son, Cambyses. Well, Cyrus's son wants to be like Dad. But Dad has pretty much conquered the world. Except for one place, Egypt, the richest of places. So Cambyses says, I'm going to conquer Egypt. It may be one place, but It's the richest place in the world, so it's a pretty good feather in your cap. You know, people will say, you only conquered one place. Your dad conquered a lot. And go, yeah, but my dad never conquered Egypt. And I did. You know, the place with the pyramids? And people go, ooh, that's true. So Cambyses gets his army together. They cross the Sinai Desert. They invade the Nile region and wins. But for a variety of different reasons, he uses Assyrian methods. He uses violence and slavery. He puts down revolts, which causes more terror, which causes more revolt. So the Egyptians hate the Persians and will always revolt and fight against the Persians, just like they did against the Assyrians. So in an empire full of niceness, hey, it's not bad being conquered by Cyrus. The Egyptians hate the Persians. Well, Cambyses will also die. He'll die as a young man. He is not murdered, even though all of this war, all this tumult is kind of breaking the empire. There's like 4 different histories of Cambyses, and none of them say he was murdered. He dies in a variety of... Basically, he dies from an infection. He is wounded, maybe by his own sword or by falling off his horse. The wound to his leg gets gangrenous, and he dies. The person who comes after him is this guy, Darius, who looks at the empire and notices it's a mess. It's all conquered places who are now like, do I have to listen to you? You're not Cyrus. And the Egyptians are flat out like, I'm not listening to you, Darius. You're going to have to make me listen to you. And so Darius decides to be a different kind. He's a cousin. He's not directly linked to Cyrus. So he's not so weighed down by the name, by the expectation to be, the next Cyrus. And so he's going to find a new legitimacy. And his legitimacy is going to be building. He's going to build. He's going to build a postal highway system so that he gets information. He'll know if the Egyptians are revolting. He'll know if the Greeks aren't paying their taxes. He'll know these places that are far away, thousands of miles away. He'll know. So this highway system is not the Roman highway system, which is economic. It's informational. It's like the early internet. The other thing he does is bring people together. He pays the best and the brightest to do good work. He's going to buy their loyalty with good wages. So he builds Persepolis. Now, remember, the Persians were a nomadic people. They don't live in cities. And there's actually a famous scene where a lot of the noblemen look at Babylon and they turn to Cyrus and they go, why don't we live here? This looks pretty good. And Cyrus turns, and this is kind of misinterpreted by the manosphere a bit, but it's soft land makes for soft men. And do you want to be like these people? We conquered them. Do you want to be like them? We live a hard life, and that makes us tough, and that makes us stronger than them. It also makes you poor and kind of dumb. Like, it doesn't make you sophisticated. It doesn't make you advanced. It doesn't make you Babylon, which is both the richest city. Remember, Egypt is the richest country, richest place. But Babylon is the most advanced city on earth, very clearly. It's where all the roads come to. And like the Assyrians who build Nineveh, Darius is going to build Persepolis, and there's no reason to go to it. It's down in the south. It's off the major trade routes. The only reason to go there is because that's where the king of the Persians is. But he, unlike the Assyrians used their capital, which remember you have to have, right? You can't not have a major capital. Why? Because Babylon exists. And everyone will look at Babylon and go, this is awesome. And then turn to you and say, where's your Babylon? If you're so tough, if you're so great, where's your city? And it's kind of embarrassing to go, I don't really have one. I'm just using theirs. You know, it's like owning a Les Paul Gibson $4,000 guitar. And people go, wow, that's amazing. Play it. And you go, I just like to look at it. Like, it's just embarrassing. So the Assyrians had to build Nineveh. The Persians will build Persepolis, the city of the Persians. That's what Persepolis means. Per se, Persian, polis, city of. But what is different is Darius is bringing cultures and creators together. He's going to hire mosaics from the Greeks. He's going to hire woodworking from the Phoenicians, because the Phoenicians have the largest forest in Southwest Asia, in the Middle East. So he's going to hire them. They're excellent woodworkers. They make ships. They have the best navies. He's going to hire them to do furniture. He's going to hire them to do woodworking. He's going to hire the Indians to come in and do a lot of graphic arts, a lot of painting. You know, you just have to take a look at any of the Rig Vedas, any of the ancient Indian. Not only do they do sculpture, but their painting is just exquisite, right? He's going to bring these people together and pay them really well. Now, what that does is it brings people together from all over the empire, and it makes the Persians look good. One, they talk to each other. And the first thing they talk about is how much they're getting paid. And they all go, oh, I'm getting paid pretty well. And they're getting paid essentially the same. So they're not jealous of each other, right? And they're getting paid well. So they're all kind of happy with the Persians. The second thing is they're going to ask, where the heck are you from? I've never met you before. I don't know your language. Where are you from? And the Indians are going to say, I'm from India. And someone's going to say, where's that? It's like, oh, that's 2,000 miles to the right. Where are you from? Oh, I'm a Greek. Well, where the hell is that? Oh, I'm 2,000 miles to the left. Wait, you mean the Persians own everything in between? And here come Caucasus people from the Caucasus Mountains. And here come Arabs from Arabia. And they're all there. Those people in between. So except for in Egypt, which remember, Cambyses was violent, which means Darius has to be violent there too, right? Because if he's not, the Egyptians will break away. The Egyptians are just waiting for a weak king to let them break away, to revolt, and they want nothing to do with the Persians. So except for in Egypt, the Persian king is well-liked, wealthy, and most importantly, well-informed. He's the best-informed king up to this point in our class. He knows more about what's going on in his empire than any leader we've talked about before. So how did the Persians hold their empire together? And they did it with their army. The army was the thing. More than the city, more than Persepolis, the army was the thing that brought people together. It's an imperial army. Now, the Assyrians had a national army. Really, only Assyrians could join. Yeah, there's a little asterisk for some peoples that were allies who could join, but it's the Assyrians kept to themselves, right? Remember, they're abusing people. So, but the Persians had an imperial army. Anyone could join it. And the Persians were willing to share their success. Again, the Assyrians weren't. Assyrian success went to fund Assyria. The Persians, on the other hand, took less up front in order to have peace in their empire. They realized that if there's constant revolts all over the place, that's expensive. That's a problem. But if people accept legitimacy, the Persians' right to lead, and if it just costs a few $1 million, hey, then you'll make billions. For the cost of millions, you'll make billions. So they're willing to share success. And so this army becomes huge, absolutely huge. 250,000 troops, we think. 10 times the size of any other army until the Napoleonic age. I deal with the Swedes. And a Swedish army made out of Swedes was somewhere around 15 to 20,000 in the 1650s. Then they had mercenaries from England and Scotland and Germany, and that's the Gustavus Adolphus armies get to be 100,000 people, but are they? They're this mob that kind of just rolls through Germany, and that's when you take my history of 102 and we do the religious wars, we'll talk about that. But really, it's Napoleonic age that creates the French Revolution. Napoleon creates an army the size of the Persians. It's huge. What's its advantage? Diversity. We've seen this before. We will see it again. Diversity. Everyone in it fights in their home style. Again, the opposite of the Assyrians, where everyone fought the same way, combined arms. Right? That's not this. This is not combined arms. This is the infantry does one thing. The cavalry does another. Your rhinos come in. Your elephants come in. Like, they're all doing their own thing, but they're also good at it. The mountain people with their bows and their spears are good at fighting with bows and spears. Your Arabs or your Persians as your cavalry are experts in cavalry. They're experts at riding horses and shooting bows. So you always have experts in any different kind of war. So it's impossible to defend against. First, the size is enormous. So you look at it and you go, I'm probably going to lose. Right? That's one. Two, even if you fight, you can't be built to fight in all the different styles. So you can only defend against, right? You know this if you're a football fan, right? You play pass, prevent, defense. So there's no long passes. Okay. But that allows for the run because you don't have enough guys up front. So you hand it off to a running back and he'll get 8, 9, 10 yards. Right? Now, your question may be, well, why doesn't he always do that? And the answer is the clock, right? You play pass prevent because you don't want something quick and big to happen. So you're using the clock to your advantage. That's why you don't play pass prevent every time. But again, if you play against the run, we have seen this. If you are an Eagles fan, you know this. You try to shut down Shaquan, and what happens? Big passes or down the field. So if you defend against the infantry, you lose to the cavalry. If you defend against the cavalry, in come the elephants. Like, it's impossible to defend against. What's the disadvantage of this? Diversity, again. There is no common training or style or even language holding the army together. It is 15 little armies instead of one big army working together. It is the exact opposite of the Assyrians. The Assyrians had a smaller, very efficient, very deadly, very well trained to work with itself army. The Persians have a huge army that's not efficient. That's not unified. That's all of these little pieces, like a salad, where where your tomatoes are there and your lettuce is here. It's like salad works, and your olives are there and your cheese is there, and they're not really mixed together. They're all put on top of each other. And does it work as a salad? Yes. Whereas the Assyrians are like a stew, where everything went in and it became something new. It became a new thing. It's also, not only is it not unified and diverse, it's also so big, it's impossible to general. It's impossible for a king to general. We see this with Xerxes when he's fighting the Greeks at Salamis. He just said, go. And then the battle happens around him. He's not in charge. Compare this to Alexander, who could move his troops over the battlefield, who was in charge of the unit he was in charge of, his cavalry, his companions, right? Where the Persian king fighting Alexander just could go forward, and that's it. They went. Alexander could command on the battlefield. And that's a huge advantage. What Alexander will also realize, and we'll talk about this in a second, is you don't have to defeat all 250,000 people. You can't. You will lose, right? The Persians are right about this. Had the Persians built an Assyrian-style army that was 250,000 people big, it would have conquered the world. I mean, it conquered most of the world to start with. It could never have lost because nobody could have fought against it. But it's impossible to do that. It's impossible to take 250,000 people and train them to work together, to train them to become one culture. It's impossible to do it. The Persian culture, the Persian Empire, wasn't built for that. So why did the Persian Empire fail? Military defeat. It starts with their invasions, overstretched. They tried to do too much. They invaded the Greeks from 400 to 360 and lost, which makes them look weak. So what you get is this royal family civil war and instability. So the loss to the Greeks doesn't break up the empire. It just makes the royal family look bad. And so different members of the royal family go, hey, my cousin is a crappy king. Maybe I should be king. And they start fighting and murdering each other. Well, that causes instability, which now leads to the loss of legitimacy. Maybe the Persians aren't the best. Not only can't they defeat the Greeks, but they're now fighting among themselves. So why should I listen to them? And suddenly, well, the Egyptians, immediately revolt. Now, they're so wealthy. They have so much food. A Persian army is always going to be sent to fight the Egyptians. But that means India could break away. That means Afghanistan could break away. That means Pontus in Asia Minor, or even the Greeks could break away. And even if they don't break away, they start with more independence. They say, I'm just not going to listen. I'm going to get a letter from the king who says, pay 10% more in taxes. What if I say no? Let's see what happens. Now, the king of Persia is fighting a civil war against his cousin, or his younger brother, and he's fighting a war in Egypt. Does he really have time for the people in the Caucasus Mountains 1,000 miles to the north? No. They're two deserts up. They're 2 mountain ranges away. All right, so he sent the message, and, maybe that Pontic governor didn't get it. I'll deal with that later. So what that means is the Pontic governor has more independence. So is he in the empire? Yeah, he hasn't broken free, but he's also not listening to the Persian king either. So he's kind of doing his own thing. So either these governors get more independence, or a Persian king has to come along to use violence to force people to listen, which now means loss of more legitimacy. Because the people of Pontus don't care who their taxes go to. But when a Persian army shows up, to beat up their king and take their pigs and their horses and their money for the back taxes, they're going to be mad. So that means more loss of legitimacy or loss of more legitimacy. So now you're in this downward cycle. And that's the problem, is this tree is rotting from the inside. On the map, it looks very big and very impressive. But the ties that bind, the glue, is weakening, is fraying. It's like a sweater it's been washed too many times, and you can start to see through it. And then comes Alexander. Alexander the Great, Alexander Magnus, Alexander King of Macedon, who will conquer the Greeks, then unite them to wage war on the Persians. He will conquer the Greeks, he will conquer the Illyrians, a non-Greek speaking quote-unquote barbarian people, but he will take those three people, combine them into a Greek military, and then invade the Persian army, invade the Persian Empire. And what he finds is he can march all the way to India, and the Persians can't stop him. In fact, after the Persian king is assassinated, there's lots of Persians who are willing to join him, since he's the winner. The Hebrews won't fight against the Persians, but they'll join Alexander as well, or at least stay neutral. There's a whole big scene when Alexander comes in, and he's basically like, are you going to help us fight the Persians? And at this point, the Persian king is still alive. He's outside of Babylon. He's waiting for the big climactic battle. And the Hebrews say no. And Alexander says, why? And the Hebrews go, well, they freed us from slavery. They treat us fairly well. They rebuilt our temple. They helped us rebuild our temple, I should say. We have no beef with them. Now, we don't have a beef with you. So we're just staying out of this. And Alexander was fine. No worries. As long as I understand you're loyal to the people who helped you. So after I defeat them, I expect you to be loyal to me. And the Hebrews like, sure, if you win, we'll be loyal to you. No problem. They'll be loyal to Alexander. There'll be problems with the future Greek kings, but we'll get there in a future lecture. And so this leads to a Greek military and cultural victory. You can understand Alexander walking into Egypt is celebrated as a god. Alexander loves Egypt. He starts to build Alexandria. He don't want to leave. So what's the result of Alexander's conquest of Mesopotamia? The replacement of Mesopotamian culture with Greek, with a European culture. Southwest Asia, Egypt, even Afghanistan become European. India doesn't. There is in Afghanistan what's called Bactrian Empire. It does control India for a while, the Indus River Valley. But there's never enough Greeks. There's never enough cultural dominance. And there's other big Indian empires, the Mauryans being the most successful, that eventually roll back the Greeks in India. It's too far away. But Afghanistan, what's called Bactria, B-A-C-T-R-I-A, that's Greek. Afghanistan became Greek for hundreds of years. So it's the replacement of this Mesopotamian culture that starts in Sumer and then goes to Babylon and then is Assyrian and Persian, and it's replaced with a European culture. This is also the start of what we would call white, quote unquote, because there is no color, there is no racism, there is no I am light-skinned, thus I am better, but it's a white ethno-European superiority. It's a culturalism. It's that the Greeks are better, Europeans are better than these Asiatics, and that's kind of the word Herodotus will use. There's Clitus the Black. Clitus the Black means he had black hair. There's also Clitus the White, so he probably had blonde, or he was old. Since he was part of the older generation, might have had white hair, but he's probably blonde. And Clitus is older than Alexander. He's part of Alexander's father's generation. And his attitude was, why would we mix with these losers? We conquered them. I don't want to marry one of their women. I don't want to have mixed Persian Greek babies. Europeans are superior. We should conquer them and run them as like slaves. They work for us now. If they were so tough, they would have conquered us. But Alexander, who's looking at this empire going, how do I run a massive, multi-ethnic, diverse empire? And he goes, I like diversity. I'm cool with mixing cultures. He has a Persian wife. He has a Bactrian wife. Yes, he has multiple wives. He has a European wife too. Or does he have a European wife? He has a European lover. He's his best friend. Alexander also had a male lover as well. But Alexander lived a life. He hires Persians to be his governors. He loves Egypt. I mean, he so loves Egypt. He wants to be Pharaoh. And the Egyptians are like, dude, all you have to do to be Pharaoh is come back. If you live in Egypt, your Pharaoh will build you something awesome. You're like Ramses. You're like Khufu. You will be one of the greats of all time. So Alexander is this international globalist person. He likes mixing cultures. He in himself is mixing cultures in his own life. So what does this mean? This means from the beginning of European power, from the beginning of European and Western culture, there has been a complicated cultural connection to other cultures. It both admires, because Herodotus, Thucydides, Alexander, Plato, Socrates, these people liked Egypt. They liked the Persians. They think they're very sophisticated. They look at Greece and Macedon and think of them as poor mountain folk. I mean, there's nothing like the pyramids in Greece. Come on. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And you may go, well, there are wonders of the world. They're not the pyramids. They're just not. Yes, the temple to Zeus is nice. It's not Khufu's pyramid. Want to know how I know? Because you know the pyramids are a wonder of the world, and you might not know the temple to Zeus Artemis, or Zeus Athena was, or the mausoleum, right? Where's the lighthouse? Where's the pharaohs? It's in Egypt. Right? I mean, come on. So it admires, but it also looks down on them. We conquered you. You're not that tough. You're not that sophisticated. So why should we mix with you? What do you have to offer? And that's Europe. Man, that's going to be Europe through the Romans. That's going to be Europe into the Middle Ages. That's going to be Europe in the conquest of the New World. That is Europe and the conquest of the world and imperialism in my 102 class. That's Europe. It is this combination of, you read Kipling, and he both admires the world. He's amazed by the world east of Suez. And also doesn't think that highly of the people. So that is the European cultural complication, and it starts at the very beginning. Okay, thank you. That's the Persians. In our next episode, we go to the Egyptians. Be safe. Thank you.